Hello and welcome to the Women's Council of Realtors session on safety. My name is Pamela Banks and I will be the moderator for today's panel discussion. This is, of course, a very timely topic, especially since the National Association of Realtors has designated September as Realtor Safety Month. The fact of the matter is, every day and every month, we must keep safety top of mind. Let's face it, we work in a profession that sometimes can put us at risk, and we've all been there. I know I have. I've been in situations, I remember it was back probably about 10 years ago at an open house. I was holding on my own, and a knock at the door. I went to the door, and there was a gentleman. And the first thing that I thought to myself, my gut instinct was, something's not right here. So I opened the door and I stood by the door with my back to the door with my phone in my hand. And I said to him, I said, go ahead and take a look around. I'm waiting for a phone call. I kept the door open. I stayed there the whole time. He walked into the house and the first thing he did was sit down right by the door. And I said, you're welcome to look around. He said, that's okay. I don't need to do that. And again, I was like, there's something not right. Okay. So we carried on some conversation about what he was looking for and all that other small talk. And then he left, and immediately I locked the door. The second time, I showed property in a very rural area. It was at a time where homes were being built but left vacant. I met two gentlemen at the property. And at first I didn't think much of it. They seemed like nice guys. We started to walk around the property, and it wasn't until I walked onto the second story of the building and I looked out over the property that was very dense, and I thought to myself, what were you thinking? No one will hear you scream. They'll never find you. And it was that moment that my instincts again stepped in, and I thought, you know what? I should not be in this situation. The good news is I'm here to share the stories with you. The bad news is some of our colleagues are not. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this session is going to be recorded so that you can share it with your friends, your loved ones, and your colleagues. We also want to let you know that you can click on the speaker view up on the right-hand corner of Zoom so that you can get the full presentation of our panelists. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now. Our first panelist is Carl L. Carter, Jr. He is a realtor and the founder of the Beverly Carter Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to improving agent safety. His mom, realtor Beverly Carter, lost her life at the hands of a couple posing as clients in 2014. Since his mother's passing, Carl has dedicated as much time as possible to spreading the message of safety. He was recently appointed as a delegate to the National Safety Council, where he advocates for the safety of lone workers. He has a Master and Bachelor of Business Administration degrees from the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, Arkansas, and an Executive Master's in Public Service from the Clinton School of Public Service. So let's please welcome Carl. Thank you, Carl, for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. Hello to everyone. I'm so honored to be able to speak with you today. I'm honored to, any time that I can share, my sweet mom, and what better group than WCR. It is unfortunate that we all can't be together in person, but I'm so glad that we can all stay connected, because what a great group. And if you don't mind, I would just love to share with you a bit of my mom's story today. And as tough as it is for me to tell my mom's story, I do so in hopes that we can learn from her situation so that we can keep it from ever happening again. It's especially emotional for me because on this day, 6 years ago, my mom was still missing. My mom had been kidnapped while showing property, and it took a span of almost 6 days for us to, or for investigators to find her. And so if I may quickly just tell you about these people that took my mom, um, they, as they didn't know my mom, and we're not entirely sure why they chose my mom. We do know that they, when it, asked repeatedly why Beverly, that it always came back to the fact that my mom was perceived as rich, and that she worked, of course, in an industry that she could, they could get her a loan for this kidnapping. And so as they began reaching out to my mom under this guise that they were interested in purchasing a property, they hid their true identities, and they interacted with my mom through a spoof telephone number. They used those fake names and created an email account. And so, which, from the fake number to the fake email account, it furthered their story that they had relocated to our area here in Little Rock, Arkansas, and relocated due to work, and that they were, seeking to purchase a property with cash as soon as possible. And my mom had been in the business for about a dozen years. She loved real estate. She made it look so easy. Now that I'm in the business, I realize that it's much harder than Mom made it look. But I think a key standout in my mom's story is that she had been an agent for so long and had the privilege to serve hundreds of families, and showing over the years thousands of properties. Yet it just took one showing, one couple, and I lost my mom. And what she, thought was them kind of likely thought was, them being picky and trying to find them a house that, would fit their needs and would be appropriate for that first showing, was actually, in fact, this couple's way of just weeding out properties until they found one on their own that they thought would be the perfect location for a kidnapping to occur. And when they called to make this appointment with my precious mom, they had, they had this plan, and they both, husband and wife, talked to my mom on the phone. And I think that in that, while I can't speak for my mom, I certainly can speak for myself, that I'm not proud to admit this, but I had, prior to this happening to my mom, some personal biases that I brought to the table. And one of those biases was that I just didn't think it possible, or if possible, extremely unlikely, for a situation that involves violent crime or the chance of victimization that would ever involve a woman. The two just didn't go together. So, I think a key takeaway from Mom's story is that we all have to be reminded that bad guys have no definable profile. And while it sure would be great if they did, they don't. And we have to remain vigilant and make sure that we are fairly, consistently screening all of our clients. But, just to tell you the ending of my sweet mom's story, it was at that showing that my mom was kidnapped. Because of so many things that she did right, from locking her purse in the car, to telling my dad her itinerary, to documenting everything that she had been told from this couple, we were able to find her after she had been taken. Unfortunately, to the point of her doing so many things right, it actually made the bad guy's plan fall apart really fast. And so these bad people, for fear of getting caught, they made the very bold, awful choice to jump from kidnapping for ransom to kidnapping and murder. And so, after a team of amazing investigators, amazing prosecutors, at least these people are off the street, they're in prison. But the things that I hope to leave you with today is that, we're coming to a close on Realtor Safety Month, September 30th. As we close out this month, it also represents the day that my mom's body was found. And I think that we honor her um, by not only keeping the conversation going, but by doing everything that we can to proactively prevent similar crimes from happening again. And that's through to the point of consistent screening, getting ID, meeting in a public place, getting proof of funds, trusting your God-given instinct, reporting suspicious behavior in the moment, doing your due diligence to not only verify the identity of folks online, but to do your best to dig and try to discern their intentions with you. That honors my mom. And of course, if you still have your mom, and of course, many of you on this today, if you are a mom, for my mom and for me, I hope that you will hold your loved ones tight, that you will remind your colleagues that this is so much bigger than ourselves. Sometimes we can get so lost in our day-to-day and get complacent, but it's just vital to know that we love you, we care for you, and we so desperately need you to get home safely to your families every day. God bless you all, and thank you for this tremendous opportunity to share my mom with you.
Thank you, Carl. And I want to say a couple things. I heard you speak before, and every time you tell the story, it just reminds us of how proud that your mom would be of you, because you took a very bad situation and turned it into something very positive of spreading the word of safety to realtors all across the country. And not only realtors, but their families, their friends. And a couple of things that you talked about that really touched my heart is, we stereotype. We think that the bad guy is always a guy. It maybe is not, and I remember the story when you told it in length, is that when your mother did have some kind of an inkling that she wasn't too sure of the situation, the woman took over.
That's right.
So, those are the kind of things that we need to be reminded of every day. And, your life is so much more important than that next sale. So please protect it and please be safe. Those are the main things that we want you to know. Trust your instinct. I don't know if many of you know Andrew Wooten. Andrew Wooten was the safety advisor for the National Association of Realtors. What a man. He once spoke in Florida. Well, he spoke several times because he was from Jacksonville. And he said, always trust your gut feeling. That's the most important thing. Many times we think of it and then we say, oh no, that's silly. Don't worry about that. That's silly. Trust your gut feeling. It's super important. And so we thank you again, Carl, for being here and for what a memorial to your mom. And so we're glad that we have you here today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. And we're going to move on to our next panelist, and that is Jen Stanbro. Jen has been a trusted leading realtor in the Des Moines, Iowa area since 2006. She feels honored to have helped over 800 clients with what is oftentimes their single greatest asset, leading to closed sales of more than $200 million. As a top producing broker, Jen is known for great customer service, focused on building relationships, strong attention to detail, skilled negotiation, systematic approach, extensive market knowledge, and going the extra mile to provide a positive experience for all involved in the transaction. Jen also pursues her dedication to excel by continued education and training. She earned her broker's license in 2014 and currently serves as broker manager of her West Des Moines office. Jen is honored to have opportunity to serve the real estate industry through her involvement as a board of director and executive officer for Des Moines Area Association of Realtors, and is a proud RPAC major investor. Congratulations, Jen. Her passion for education of realtor safety has led her to serving as a board of director and executive officer for the Beverly Carter Foundation, dedicated to the ideal that every agent goes home safely every day. Jen's passion for real estate safety ignited after experience the loss of a dear friend, Ashley Oakland, who was killed while holding an open house on April 8, 2011 in West Des Moines, Iowa. This fueled her desire to bring awareness to real estate safety and to encourage the safety conversation to be one that is reunited and repeated and remembered. And when she's not working, Jen is a mom and she enjoys spending time with her husband and her children. So let's give a welcome to Jen. Jen, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And thank you again for having a few minutes to tell you a little bit more about my story and kind of how I got here, and to encourage all of you as well. As Pamela mentioned, I had my first child in December of 2005, and I had done mortgages before that, and I was kind of at a crossroads where I knew I wanted to try something new, but I wasn't sure what that was going to look like. So when I started to think about that, I knew that I liked to look at nice houses, that I wanted to have some flexibility with my work hours so I could spend more time with my new son, and that I would like to make a ton of money. So it made sense to get into real estate, which I quickly learned that a lot of the homes I looked at looked perhaps more like dungeons, that I definitely had flexible work hours. I could pick whatever 80 hours a week I wanted to work. And that the pile of money that I envisioned often felt more like the taxes I was paying into the IRS than what I was actually taking home. But I've been selling now for 15 years and still love it, and don't feel a day over I did when I got my license, and I'm never exhausted. But I want to tell you just for a few minutes about my dear friend, Ashley. I met Ashley back in, it would have been 2007 in December. She dated one of my husband and my good friends. Ashley was one of those people that from the moment you met her, she captured your heart and you were never the same. She was that friend that this time of year, she would be coming around to deliver little pumpkins to my kids. She would call on trick or treat night, which here in Iowa, we like to be weird, and we do that on the 30th instead of the 31st, because again, why not? But she would call me that day and ask if I was going to bring my son over so that she could see him in his costume before we actually went out trick or treating. I still remember the day that he started preschool. Even though she was younger and did not have kids yet and wasn't married, she was the friend that called me, remembering that he was starting school that day, and wanted to check in on Mama and see how she was doing, and insisted that we go to lunch that day. And you know, one thing, I came across a quote years ago now that says, there are moments in our life which define it. And from that point forward, it becomes before that and after that. And I think we all can think about those, you know, before we got married, after we got married, before kids, after kids. But one of those days for me was April 8th, 2011. I had woken up that morning, and like all good real estate agents, I had a packed day. I was going to take pictures for my friend that was getting married, because as a real estate agent, I'd taken a few photos of houses, and I probably was a professional photographer along the way. So I did that. I remember we went and had a luncheon at my friend's dad's house to celebrate her new marriage. And then I was fitting in a few houses that I was going to show in between the wedding and the reception later that night. And I had this client, dear Garnet. I'd been showing Garnet several houses. I was going to show her another 3. I think this was number 798, 799, 800, and maybe even 801, because about every house we would go into, she would look around and, this is kind of nice, but it's not the one. And here we go on to the next house. So that afternoon, we went to a couple of houses, and I remember entering, getting ready to open the lockbox on that third house, and Garnet's daughter was along, and she said, I just heard on the radio that a lady has been shot over by Jordan Creek Mall. Well, if any of you are familiar with Iowa, we're a pretty small town. Most of our areas are very, very safe. Jordan Creek, West Des Moines area is no exception. And I remember as I was fumbling with the lockbox, just saying, wow, that's weird. That's not an area that you often hear of something like that. So that sounds odd. And just like that, I dismissed that comment and was on to opening the door, ushering Garnet in so that she could tell me this probably wasn't her forever house again. But as we were looking around the house, I noticed that my phone continued to blow up. I kept getting text message after text message, call after call. I kept ignoring them, trying to stay present in the showing, as of course we want to make sure that we're devoting ourselves to our clients. And finally, I had glanced down to notice that my broker had called for a second time. So I excused myself and went in and took the call because I had a deal going with my broker that had some hangups and hiccups in it. You see, end of the world stuff, the paint touch-ups on the wall weren't matching and closing was likely going to be delayed. So I answered that call, and I remember I was a little annoyed that my phone kept ringing and those kind of things. And I just remember answering the phone and my broker asking where I was. And I said, I'm showing houses. I said, is everything okay? And I remember her saying, I just need you to call me when you're done. And just kind of that pause, which caused me to ask, what's going on? Is everything okay? And she was trying to shake me off the phone so that I would call her when I was done. And I tend to have a little bit of a stubborn streak inside of me, and so that wasn't going to happen. And I remember at that point, she just paused and said, I've been told that Ashley was shot and killed was shot during her open house. And my broker knew how close Ashley and I were, and during her open house, which she held on a regular basis, it was a new construction townhome project. She had a partner, and they would take turns holding the house open 6 days a week, 1 to 4. This was a Friday afternoon, middle of the day. And during this open house, after a while, a supervisor went to drop off flyers, and at that point, Ashley was found shot twice in the chest and the head, and laying on the floor in West Des Moines. And again, that was when I heard that news. That was the moment. It was before and after where everything changed. Before that, I felt safe. I had a sense of naivety of everyone is innately good and we live in a safe area in Iowa. And after that, I had that questioning where I wanted to sit with my back to the wall at any restaurant because I would shake and watch everyone around, and being afraid every time I put my daughter in the car seat as she was front facing at that point. I would think through how I was going to fall when somebody came up and shot me, because I knew that something that had happened to my friend, someone who was as pure and had as big a heart as Ashley, the world just wasn't right. I like to always, I find myself glossing over this part. We are nearing 10 years later in April, and unfortunately they have not found
Oh my gosh.
whoever did this to my friend, to Ashley. So the unknown is still kind of out there, and that's been a huge struggle. Just how do you go on? How do you deal with this? There's no justice for my friend because we don't know who, we don't know why. You kind of have to accept, are we ever going to know? And so in that, again, I came across, I do a lot of reading. I came across the saying that in the absence of explanation, we are still able to find purpose. And so as much as I hate reliving that day in April and the days and the weeks and the months after that, and even to this day, how talking about it and just going back over it causes my voice to shake, my heart to race. You know, unfortunately, still nightmares at times of that, still looking at friends and other people in our circle thinking, could they have been the one that did it? I feel that I'm compelled to share that because that's one thing that I can do. Ashley had a heart for everyone, and she would want everyone to do what they could to be safe. She loved real estate. She would not want any of us to practice in fear, but she would be out there wanting us to be prepared, to educate ourselves, to continue on the conversation, to continue to encourage one another, and to wrap our arms around each other, and to continue to try to help each other be better, and at the end of the day, help each other come home safely to our families.
I have to say, Jen, what a beautiful testimony to a beautiful life lived, and lessons learned. And so no one is going, all of these things that you're doing because of your friend and because of Carl's mother add to all of us. So thank you so much for sharing that message with us and reminding us. And hopefully someday you'll get some resolution to that. But I love that you have a beautiful story to tell about a wonderful woman who lived a great life. So thank you for sharing that with us. And, I know that a couple times the open house thing has come up, and that is something that we really have to be careful with. I think about that all the time. We put out these signs that say, open, come on in, to me, I think that's super crazy, because we're just inviting someone to come in, and we don't know who's going to walk through that door. So thank you for sharing that story. And we're gonna have our final speaker, who is not a realtor, however, a very interesting guy who has some really great tools to share with us. His name is Drew Henson. Drew Henson is an award-winning designer, entrepreneur, and founder of 22B, a lifestyle and technology product design studio based in Toronto, Canada. And he's founder and CEO of Seam Technic, a personal safety platform. Armed with both a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Physics from the University of Saskatchewan, I probably didn't say that right, and a Master's in Industrial Design from Italy, Drew balances the requirements of both fields naturally and in any design strategy. Drew was previously the Chief Design Officer of Forearm Network Technologies in China and Director of Products for Drift Innovations in the UK, where Drew created dozens of designs for wearable cameras and accessories. This experience includes working directly with NASA to clear his award-winning Drift Ghost S design for the International Space Station, where 3 Ghost S cameras were deployed and continue to function and be in service 5 years later. Drew has many awards. He's gotten many awards for many different things, and I'm going to let him, because there's so many here that I just can't go over all of them, Drew. Most recently, though, Drew's design for the Lotus by Seam was a finalist, and I'm going to say for the SXSW Interactive Innovation Awards. Now, Drew, you're going to have to explain what SXSW is. Welcome, Drew.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate everybody on the panel and everybody that's taken their time today. That would be South by Southwest,
Okay.
the big festivals. They have a technology portion where they invited us down to discuss the technology. Thank you very much for the introduction. I think that the takeaway of my body of work and what I would like to focus on is creating things. And the one part that's not there was my original dream in life was to create things for Formula One technology and racing. And I was very fortunate. I did that at the age of 26, 27. And then I moved forward to working on action cameras. And those were the cameras that went to space. But subsequently, though, what I wasn't ready for was what happens when you create something that has now 250,000 or 500,000 units that have been created, and you ultimately being responsible for the life cycle of these products, and these products ending up in a landfill or a garbage, or just having a negative impact on the world themselves. So I made a dedication about 3, 4 years ago when SEAM came out that we wanted to only make technology that helped people. And when we take a look at the literal conversation of how we can help people, we felt that our expertise in wearable technology and mobile app usage and design were where we would like to focus. And that was really where SEAM came from. SEAM, SEAM, is where the digital connection between people. And so what we want to offer is a way for people who work alone, a way for people that are just by themselves to quickly and easily not only just share where they are, that already existed, find my friends and sort of similar things of that nature. But we wanted to see, how can you share where you are, but with context? And how can you share it with context without having to say where you are and announce where you are in a reliable sort of way? And that's really where SEAM came from. The quickest way to explain it is we have an app where you add 5 people, and this is available on iOS or Android. And these are your colleagues, your workmates. For me, it's my girlfriend, my business partner, etc. when I go on travels, and my brother. And having all of this accessible from the mobile app is great, but as Jen was explaining, you want to be present, you want to be there. And so in those moments, you're not going to be able to take out your phone, unlock it, and call for help if anything were to happen. And also, there's a difference between calling for help and utilizing surveillance to be covered, I guess you can say, so to speak. And so what we created was a device called the Lotus. The Lotus has 2 buttons, one on either side, and it connects to your phone via Bluetooth. Now I wear this device and it has a microphone. It also has a speaker. And now when I tap the 2 buttons together, whether my phone's in my bag or other side of the room, it is now recording where I am, and it's recording the audio streaming from the device. So I get the conversation I'm having, and I also get where I am locked in and recorded. If I were to click them again, now it's streaming this live to those 5 people. So my colleagues know where I am, they know there's something wrong, and they're able to hear the conversation I'm having while it's simultaneously being recorded. And that was really what we wanted to start the offering for, to help people who are by themselves, is these tools that allow them to share what's happening. In addition to that, I can hold these 2 buttons and it will automatically make an emergency phone call to my colleague that is closest to me in proximity. So hopefully whoever's the closest and able to get there the fastest, I've now just had a direct line of contact, and you can just have the phone conversation through the device itself. It's also synchronized with Siri and Google Assistant. So I can tap it and have full voice commands. So I can tap it and say, call 911 if I so need it, or I can just say, text colleague A, I'm running 10 minutes late as I'm driving, because it's more convenient and safe that way. This has been on the market for a year and a half now, and we've been really happy with it, and we've had a lot of great success with really helping realtors as a focal point. When the app came out on its own, we were really looking to help Uber drivers because their phone is on their dash. And we realized that creating tools to help lone workers is a really great place to put our efforts. And so we kind of went to work to see what was going on. And I just really wanted to take the time to thank Carl and thank Jen for being able to go through their stories and being able to discuss them. And to be absolutely honest, every single detail is absolutely critical. Even from the conversations I've had today, and I've been fortunate enough to hear Carl explain the story before as well, but I picked up another couple details today, and it's how do we make things that really help and really work? And that's what I'm obsessed with. I don't want to give somebody a Fitbit that ends up in their drawer. I want, if somebody is in danger or in trouble, they can rely on what we've created to help them during that situation, but also to help create the most positive outcome possible if something bad does happen as well, and create that paper trail of additional data to help out. So,
well, Drew, you and I had a conversation last week, and I took out my box that I had for over a year. So tell me something. We go to shows, we pick up these great tools.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through like a little quickie. So it's in my box. How do I get it? What do I do with this? And how can they help me?
Absolutely. So inside the box, it comes in this little charging case. It's similar to Apple AirPods. So on its own, it has about 8 hours of charge. So you get to a showing and you can either clip it on and wear it and turn it on and it connects to your phone. Or if you prefer, it also comes in white. and rose gold, and you can wear it on a bracelet. So we've designed it so it just clips in, and now it's on the bracelet. Or very similar, you can wear it around your neck in the necklace. Um, and then you just turn on the app, turn on the device. And as you go about your showing, that's it. If you ever have anything in problems, any needs, you just tap the two buttons, boom. Right now, it's already recording and streaming. So it's really that simple. And I'm very excited about it. And I'm also very excited to have these conversations as we move to designing the next generation of technology. Just to give you the punchline, that is not cell phone dependent. How do we give these devices out that don't rely on another barrier to help people with live streaming technology? And things like 5G will help lead the way for that.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for your brain power, and thank you for all you're doing to keep us safe. And I promise I'm going to hook mine up and use it, because it's not doing me any good sitting in that box. I promise. I promise.
No
So
problem.
I want to thank all of our panelists today for their time and for sharing their stories, and as well as giving us some tools and advice to keep us all safer. You know, safety is number one when it comes to our business. So again, does anyone else want to add any final words before we end our session today? All right. Looks good. What? Go ahead, Drew.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Renee wants to know, where can we find the product?
So you can find it at our website, which is SeamTechnic, SeamTechnic.com, or you can also find it on Amazon. And from Amazon, we ship, and you get your normal conditions and terms. So they're on either location.
And we're proud to say that Drew has been one of our strategic partners before. So we thank him for being a sponsor of one of our events in the past, and we'll hopefully see you in the future. All right, everyone. Thank you again, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.